Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm greeting to each of you as we come together once again for the 14th session of Urban Talks. The web conference hosted by the Institute of Urban Designers of Sri Lanka. Urban Talks has been a beacon of knowledge and innovation, providing a platform for insightful discussions on the future challenges of urban living. It is with immense pleasure that we resume this enlightening series after a brief pause. We are honored to have with us today the President of the Institute of Urban Designers of Sri Lanka, Dr. Janaka Vijayasundara. With his visionary leadership and unwavering dedication to the field of urban design, Dr. Vijayasundara has been instrumental in fostering sustainable development. I invite President Dr. Janaka Vijayasundara to share his thoughts and insights in the welcome speech, setting the tone for the discussions that will follow.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Naina. Good evening. I think, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Naina?
Yes, sir.
Right. You can hear me, right? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, right. So good evening to all of you. And on behalf of the Institute of Sri Lanka Institute of Urban Designers and the Council of Sri Lanka Institute of Urban Designers, I warmly welcome you to this Urban Talk series. Today, in fact, we are going to have number 14th Urban Talks, our series. And you must also say that, during the previous months, for a longer period of time, we were unable to organize continuously. But I think now the council and the members all decided to go ahead, and we hope to continue this from this month onwards. Basically, the objective of this forum is to share the expertise knowledge into the areas of urban design, urban development with our members, as well as other allied professional members, and also the students. So this became a popular forum for most of us, and it was held once a month. So I'm very pleased to see that we recommence this event, and it's great that we could see that series number of professionals, experts are in line for next few months. We got all arranged. First of all, I would like to welcome Professor Sharma for this event and sort of agreeing to be the speaker of today's session. And Professor Sharma, we get to know recently, and I think there'll be introduction about him after my little speech. I must greatly thankful for him for assisting us and helping us, as well as sharing his long knowledge. I think more than 35 years of experience professionally as well as academically. We are very lucky that we have him today at our forum. Before Professor Sharma starts, I would like to just 2 slides. I want to go ahead with the theme that we are going to discuss today. As we know that financial centers, something like, it's something bigger in magnitude. So unlike little pockets or town districts and so on, but financial centers are very major thing, and also getting a certain experience on this also is very much important for professional life as urban designers, urban planners, landscape architects, as well as engineers and so on. So financial center is basically banking and asset management, insurance or finance markets, and these are various other supportive services are offered and activities are taken place in such a center. So what it comes to our mind when you talk about financial centers are the key giant cities, New York, London, etc. So Tokyo. Now, as per the the literature says that out of 196 countries, about 80 countries have developed such centers, but they are in varying categories, varying ranges. Uh, so this index developed by IMF says that there are three categories: international financial centers, of course, New York, London, Tokyo; regional financial centers like Shanghai, Shenzhen, Singapore, Frankfurt, Sydney. I think there are a few more other cities as well. Offshore financial centers. So these are somewhat low in size. Dublin, Cyprus, Hong Kong. Actually, Hong Kong is right now, they are trying to compete with even bigger ones, as we heard and know about the facts. And so in Asia, I think there's again competition between different cities, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Tokyo, in between cities. But in the other parts of the Asia, like Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, I think they got developed a financial center in a recent time, and then Putrajaya in Malaysia. And so there are a few, today's presentation in India. So there are a few other countries also trying to get into this this kind of facility or this kind of level of functional levels in their cities. So why it is important is that it helps to the growth of overall economy, as we know, as well as create a large number of jobs in various sectors, and knowledge and technology also, as we experience from other cities. Then the contribution to the gross national product, and there may be other aspects as well. So to become a financial center, global financial center, there are many conditions, right? I'm sure that Professor Pal might go into those things as well, because in India it has been done. So let me also quickly, my second slide, I can finish it with this one. So I was just looking at two different locations. One here in Istanbul, recently HOK urban designers, Toronto-based, but having with many other their officers. So they have planned one in Istanbul to become the 10th largest financial economy, their economy, to make the 10th largest by this year. So, so this is, I mean, just look at the 170 acres of area and also 45 million square feet of office and other spaces. So comparing that with Colombo in Sri Lanka, so recently we also initiated a business center, particularly we call it Port City, which is Colombo International Financial City. So that has 269 hectares of land that's all reclaimed from the sea, and five different. It is to be built with 5 different precincts with the final district. So all the plans and everything has been done, and Central Park, island living, marina, etc., etc. So over 5.6 million square meters of built space. I think compare with the Istanbul, 45 million square. Of course, it's a square feet. Yes, so this is 5.6 million square meters, maybe around 56 million square feet or so. So, but what is important? You can see what is important here is that the whole district or whole city center to be governed as an independent authority by an independent authority. So the most of the rules, regulations are not applied in other parts of the country. It's not to be applied into this area. Even the Kalam Municipal Council, Town Council Authority will be not inactive in this particular zone. So many investors opportunities are also offered here. So far, I think this is what we basically know about our financial proposed Colombo International Financial City. So with this little introduction, I will move to the program. So today's program is so that we were a little late to start, but we can catch up perhaps towards the latter part of the event. I think you can see that. So Professor Sharma will be talking about approximately 1 hour of his project, his involvement, his experience, urban design proposal for International Finance and Business Center, Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai. I think this is one of the major things if you search for financial centers proposals. So the after the moderation and discussion, Q&A session will start, and this will be led by urban design architect Dr. Jiva Vijayasundar. I think please introduce our speaker today, Naina.
Thank you, Doctor.
For attending. Thank you.
We are truly honored to have Professor Utpal Sharma as our conference chair speaker. Talking about him is Professor Utpal Sharma, Dean and the Director of the Institute of Architecture and Planning at Irma University, and spearheading the institution since its inception in 2014. He has over 30 years of experience, both as an academician and professional in the field of architecture and planning. He studied architecture from IIT Roorkee, urban and McGill University, Canada. He has also received an honorary doctorate from Sorbonne University, France in 2018. Prior to joining Irma University in 2014, he was the dean at the Faculty of Planning in Cept University. Earlier, he was also a senior associate with Vastu Shilpa Foundation for Studies and Research in Environmental Design, Ahmedabad. Professor Sharma has also worked extensively across India and Asia on various prestigious urban projects that involve preparation of master plans, regional plans, zonal plans, housing policy formulation, and urban design guidelines. He has received many prestigious awards, including Hardcore Design Award and Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Urban Planning and Design. He was the past president of Asian Planning School Association, which is APSA. He also served as an expert member to the Government of India on affordable housing policy. He is an expert member on various government and non-governmental bodies in India. He has numerous lectures and papers on his credit, which were presented across various reputed forums all over the world. Professor Sharma holds membership of important professional bodies, such as the fellow member of the Institute of Town Planners, India, and associate member of Indian Institute of Architects and Council of Architecture. Under his leadership, the Institute has scaled new heights in academic excellence in a short span of time. He had set up numerous collaborations with foreign universities and other institutions for joint research and student exchange programs, which is benefiting the academic fraternity of the growing institute. Besides, the research institute is also taking up prestigious consultancy assignments, which allows faculty and students to work in live projects. Without further ado, I firmly invite Professor Utpal Sharma to proceed with his enlightening speech. Professor Sharma?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for the nice introduction. Maybe I don't deserve it. Uh, so, what I'm going to present today is one of the project that I had worked with Professor Balkrishnan Doshi, uh, and I was the kind of project director, and it is a International Finance and Business Center, Bandakulla complex in Mumbai, and this was one of the first large-scale urban planning, urban design project in India, and particularly for urban design. And I think we have something to learn from it. And I'm not trying to say that this is the ideal project. We're using this project as a case to discuss about urban design and the issues, particularly in a developing country like India. Okay. Now I will switch over to my presentation. Just hold on a minute, and then we start discussing about the project.
Maybe you can make the full screen mode down there. Okay, we can see the slides.
Good evening, everybody. So I am making a presentation on the International Finance and Business Center, Mandakulla Complex, Mumbai. And this presentation I'm making specially to the Sri Lanka Institute of Urban Designers. Okay. As you know, Janaka already has given some background about the financial centers across the world, like New York, London, Tokyo, etc. And there are various levels of financial centers. And in 1990-91, India also embarked on setting up an international finance center in Mumbai. That was in tune with when Mr. Narasimha Rao, he became the prime minister, and Manmohan Singh, who later on became the prime minister. He was a great economist, and they both propagated that India should embark on a path of economic liberalization and open up the economy for foreign investment. Because till then, India was very restricted, and everything was basically you need to get a license from the government to set up any business or any business enterprise. And our economy was going down, and that's the time that India decided that we go onto the path of economic liberalization and attract foreign investment to come to India. So as a part of this, obviously Mumbai was already operating as a financial center, and a lot of the business houses from various parts of the world, they were renting some small properties in Mumbai, and they were operating from those small houses or little floors in some commercial complex, etc., etc. It is at this point in time, in tune with the economic liberalization process, the India decided that we will locate the new financial center in Bandakulla complex. This is the area that is earmarked with a red circle. This area was already earmarked as an alternative business center for the city of Mumbai. Because as you know, Mumbai, our city center is located at a kind of a downward tip, which is that called the Nariman Point area. We can see some of the map little later. And this location where we are talking about International Finance and Business Center is actually also earmarked as a city center, alternative city center to Mumbai, so that we can have a better location and better distribution of employment, and people can easily move around, etc. Because it's supported by two railway lines on both sides. And as you know, Mumbai is basically supported by railway system, and this location is between the two railway lines.
It's and one square.
Yeah, just a minute.
It is not moving to the next slide.
So I have to go there.
No. Just hold on.
The slide is on. It has come.
Can you see the next slide now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Just leave it there.
Yeah. Okay.
So with this location, now we have decided to set up the new financial center, and as a part of this, Professor Balkistan Doshi, Charles Correa, etc., they all combined and advised the government that let's do a proper master plan for this area and do a urban design proposal. So I had a chance to work on this project, and I will take you along with this. And as a part of this, we also had a chance to look at some of the financial districts in various parts of the world and what is that you can learn from them. And finally, how are we proposing a financial center in the Bandakulla complex. So as you know, this is the kind of colonial Mumbai, and it gives a kind of lifestyle in Mumbai where people are basically go by train, and after that they go to the place of work, basically walking for 10-15 minutes, and that the city is always very busy and everybody is walking around to their place of work, and at the same time maybe doing a little bit of enjoyment. This just gives a glimpse of the city, and it's a British colonial part of the city, very similar to some parts of Colombo. Now, when we finally come back to the site that is earmarked for the Bandakulla complex is about 120 hectares, surrounded by by some major road, and then the capacity of how much we can build in this 120 hectares is decided by the kind of traffic that the new road that can carry. And other part is that Mumbai is also because of the railway line, so how much traffic the railway will carry or not put together, it can tell the carrying capacity of this area as to kind of employment that it can be located. We can discuss that. And this site is very near to the present Mumbai airport. So there are certain height restrictions for this area, not more than 10 to 12 floors. Then we cannot really do skyscrapers because of it comes in the funnel of the airport. But it gives a kind of a broad scenario of the site at that point in time. As you see, the site is nothing very particularly kind of very impressive, because the site was with Mumbai Metropolitan Region Planning Authority, and it was surrounded by slums. We have some creeks which are not very well managed and well developed. And the other side of the creek, we have one of the biggest slum of the world called Dharavi. And this is all the things that is happening together in this piece of land. And while you are making a development in this area, we have to turn all these negative externalities into a positive situation. But as of now, before we started the project, site is surrounded by a lot of undesirable activities. And this is the creek, which is also highly polluted, but there are some amount of mangroves, and it also kind of drains the site in terms of flood water, rainfall water that goes out through this channel. Then you see some of the photograph on the right-hand side, middle, that is the site, and on the side, surrounding the site, you can see some of the slum development, some areas that are for some kind of a housing, because the site of Bandakulla complex is much larger But when it was handed over to Maharashtra Housing Development Authority, they made a lot of housing and they do the business center. After it changed so much of hands, now we are at the kind of right agency and the right kind of side to take care of in terms of making a financial district. As you see, the site is surrounded by some amount of slums, some amount of housing, and there's nothing very pleasant about the site. The site is just lying there and slowly, if we had not developed the financial center, it may as well be encroached by some of the slum dwellers. But at the same time, when we started this project, we thought we need to learn from the city of Mumbai and some of the cities across the world in terms of defining the built form character and the kind of image that you want to have it for the new citizen. So this part is called the DN Road in city of Mumbai. Basically, low-rise, high-density building of 4 to 5 floors with a arcaded street, etc. And that's what is the kind of peculiar character for the city of Mumbai. There are also some studies that were carried out by some of my students in terms of the arcade, how it terminates, how does it go, etc. Because we thought that in the city like Mumbai, where you get a lot of rainfall and a lot of people walking around, and maybe arcaded street may be a good idea even to pursue in the new proposal for the Bandra Kurla. It's not changing. Just hold on it. I need to change the slide. Then there's some of the business district areas which is already existing. There are a lot of informal activity that happens during the day. When the evening hours, maybe people go back home and some of these places where the business that is happening become very deserted and it becomes a kind of a dead place in the evening. So we also thought that when we were doing this proposal for the Bandra Kurla complex, we have to create life in the public space throughout the day and even at night, and so that we can have certain desirable kind of activity mix so that this place doesn't become a dead place in the after office hours. These are some of the areas, Baladi state areas where some of these, Tatas and Birlas and some of the big business houses, they operate from here. And this place is basically being at one corner of the city of Mumbai. Everybody uses taxi as the public transport, and they don't really bring in their own private vehicle. And this area works very well with a taxi system. So some of the areas which are called Honeyman Circle, again, which is done during the British time, a beautiful garden in the middle and an arcaded building with 4 or 5 floors. And this can really define the character of this area, which was done about 100, 150 years ago. But now in the modern urban planning, we have the buildings as some kind of boxes, and it doesn't really have the character that this place talks about. And we thought maybe that when we're making a new plan for the Bandra Kurla complex, we have to bring some of these characters into the new city that we are trying to build. Then these are some studies of the core areas of the city of Mumbai, and you can see that the simple subdivision of plot, and there's very little parking, and there are compound wall between the property, and there are a lot of traffic jam and congestion in this area. We'll see some of the pictures. And what you see is that this is the kind of a present financial center for the city of Mumbai, where it has no character and we have basically certain high-rise buildings. And it doesn't really talk about a befitting character for a financial center like for the city of Mumbai. There are also a whole lot of informal activity that is happening around business houses where people come for breakfast, lunch, etc. And we need to, if we don't provide for it, they occupy the public spaces, particularly the footpaths and the street corners, and many of the economic activities are taking place there. So we have to take care of in the new plan, we have to provide for such informal activities also. Then this is some of the areas that are developed near our site as a kind of office complex for financial centers. But here it is what the government does. They design one building and they change the facade a little bit here and there and they repeat the same building. Okay. And that is not really the urban design that you talk about. This is just a congregation of some building to facilitate certain economic activities, but it doesn't really talk about a kind of a befitting character for a financial district. This is what those buildings are. You designed one and you rubber stamp many of them. And then you say this is a kind of urban design. That's what was done about 50 years ago. Now, this is the Connaught Place in the city of New Delhi, which is where a beautifully designed city center done by Edwin Lutyens. And this has the kind of character and other association that we are proud of. And we thought the new city plan of the Bandra Kurla complex must accommodate some of these activities. Then from there, while I was doing that, I had a chance to go to Guangzhou in China as a part of a 3-week international design competition. I was one of the members. So I went to Guangzhou and later on to China to learn about what is happening. And we find that in India, we are talking about 120-hectare area for a financial district, but they were trying to rebuild the city with multi-level flyovers, etc., etc. What China did, we are doing 50 years later in India. Then from there, I had a chance to go to Shanghai, and we can see the part of Shanghai as a background, which is very similar to Mumbai because it was under the British rule and very similar kind of colonial architecture that is in Shanghai. But they are building a totally new city on the other side of the harbor. While we are developing about 120 hectares, they are trying to develop more than 400 square kilometers as a new city of Pudong, where they want to locate all the business houses with a new airport, new metro line, and new activities that they're doing. And they have no problem with high-rise, high-density building. And this whole thing was happening. So their scale of operations were very different than what we did for India. And they were far, far ahead. But now, after so many years, you can say 1923 now we are the kind of a fastest growing economy, even more than China, and maybe over the next 20 years, the major economic activity will shift to India. But that point in time, China was ahead of us, and we had a lot to learn from them for our proposal for the Bandra Kurla complex. And we can see this is from the Shanghai Museum of Urban Planning, where they're talking about a new city of Pudong with high-rise, high-density buildings. And this is what is actually there is on the ground. And you can see they have an elevated walkway at the upper level connecting various buildings, and these are also used by the people who are working here and as well as for the tourists. And they talk about a totally new image of the city. These are some of the such areas, and they are doing in a very different scale and try to, and their whole economy of Shanghai, what they talked about, that in next 20 years, we have to be #1 economic superpower of the world. And if we cannot become that, we have to be ahead of Hong Kong anyway. And that is the kind of vision, and that's what the scale of operations that they're talking about. And they're doing big things at a very big scale. This is from Shanghai, this is back to Guangzhou, and they're saying you can see the whole city is being ripped apart, and many of the existing well-done buildings, 5, 6, 7-story buildings are replaced by high-rise, high-density buildings, and the whole city is being rebuilt in a very different way because all foreign investments are allowed to come into this area, and the city is transforming very fast. This is the city center, new city center for city of Guangzhou, maybe a population of about 12 million. And this is what they were doing. These are some of the study models. They are all high-rise, high-density cities that they were talking about. From there, we had a chance to come to Shanghai. From there to come to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is a very polished city. And you find that Hong Kong is one city where almost 97% of the traffic is in public transport system. Roads are not very wide, but there's not much of traffic. And the FAR, which is beside the urban form of the city, was almost anywhere from 10 to 12, which is very, very high. And Mumbai, you are still talking about FSI 1.5 to 2, but Shanghai is talking about, Hong Kong is talking about FAR 10 to 12. And the whole city is connected by, core city area is connected by elevated pedestrian network, connecting to the various buildings and connecting also to the public transport system, the metro system, and also the system for various boats taking you to the various islands. And this is also a city where everybody is busy walking around, and everything is a place where you can walk around and don't have to cross the vehicular road because you're operating at the second floor level. Look at the city where there's hardly any traffic, but everybody is in some kind of a public transport system. And roads are not very wide, but there's no traffic because they really emphasize public transport as a way of life for the people of the city, and they're investing very heavily into the public transport system. These are some of the spaces between the building, which are 70 floors, etc. And these are the spaces for informal activities and kind of a linear corridor that connect from one place to another. But at the same time, the main roads are basically for traffic and pedestrian, and no such informal activities are allowed. There are lots of public spaces. Those are basically the buildings are supposed to leave certain space as the public space, and these are spaces occupied by the people of the city. From there, I had the chance also to visit Canary Wharf, where they have converted part of the derelict land into a city center by connecting this area with the public transport to the main city of London. And here they were basically talking about kind of star architect. They didn't really believe too much about the master plan. We talk about star architect, and this star architect doing a beautiful building. They thought this place will come up in a very different way. And that is the kind of strategy that this place has, Canary Wharf has adopted. Their whole metro system is very beautifully worked out. These are some of the images of the city. And then from there, because this lecture is also for some of the students, we also look at some of the beautiful pedestrian streets like, Ramlas from Barcelona, which actually can be provided in some of the proposal. We will talk about a pedestrian street, which is basically a pedestrian street with informal activities on both sides. Coming back to Paris with a kind of boulevard street with a lot of pedestrian areas, and you can see the city which is basically meant for pedestrian and bicyclists, but at the same time they have not forgotten the traffic. And under the road, they have actually built 5 layers of parking that you have. So city has adequate parking space under the street, and the space over is basically meant for the pedestrian. And what we see in India, we said we have parking is happening on the road. There is not much of public space that is left because parking has taken over. Here they have created the public space, and they created the parking space under the public space. And this is something that we need to learn how we can propose a kind of a new urban design framework. These are some of the public spaces of various parts of the city, pedestrian street, etc., before we come back to our Bandra Kurla complex. Now coming back to our site, as you know, Mumbai is also a city with public transport, with 85% traffic in public transport, 40% by bus, and 40% by train. And that is one of the best cities in India in terms of public transport. That's why the city is managing with less area on the road and other kind of issues where for the comparison, for city like Delhi, our public transport all put together may not be more than 40%, and a lot of vehicles are on the road. In spite of having wider road, etc., we have traffic jams and spend hours on the road traveling. Now for the Bandra-Kurla complex, the Mumbai Metropolitan Authority, they had no clue how to develop this area. They were basically subdividing land and selling on various parcels to the people. And I was working on one of the projects of the Bharat Diamond Boots with Professor Doshi, and then we told him that how can you make a plan for an area which is 8 hectares of land with a multi-level offices without the overall planning for this area. So we insisted on that we will do a kind of preliminary master plan to tell you what can happen, and then you should decide to appoint somebody to really do the proper master plan for this area. As a part of this, I also had a chance to visit Melbourne, and we saw that some of the city blocks are slowly made being pedestrian and the vehicles are eliminated. Now people are basically pedestrian street and public transport, and the city is working quite beautifully as a kind of a pedestrian-friendly city with bicycle and public transport, and all the cars are slowly eliminated. The city like Barcelona, where we have removed some of the vehicular road itself, and some of the street areas have become public spaces, and these are being renovated. So these are the kind of new and trend of urban planning that was happening all over the world. These are some of the housing projects from Singapore and other places. Now coming back to our site, here we had a chance for the Bandra Kurla complex, about 120 hectares of land. So how much of traffic that we can handle, and what kind of activity mix can you propose? And this is a place where you can talk about higher level of affair if you want. We worked out a kind of various alternatives with respect to mix of residential and other activities, and finally try to relate it back to the traffic that it is carrying. And eventually we presented to the government saying that we can get an affair of around 3.5, and with a higher share of residential population living in the Bandra Kurla complex, because they will live and work in the same place, and in fact they will reduce the traffic. But finally the Assembly of Maharashtra, they gave us a fare of 2 and not 3.5, but this is still much more than 1.3 that is happening in Mumbai. We got a fare of 2, and we moved ahead with a proposal for Bandra Kurla complex in terms of urban design with a fare of 2. And this is the kind of a political decision. And this is the kind of diagram when we started the site. These are few of the buildings that are already happening on the site, and there's no master plan. And we thought that one of the important issues that yes, this site will be connected by railway network, and there'll be railway network along the creek, and there'll be station which will bring in almost 45% of traffic to this place, and there'll be pedestrian network, and this becomes a kind of important ways to really make a master plan for this area. Second important thing was that because all the buildings will be basically, though it will be air conditioned, but the building will face north and south, which is with respect to the energy calculation, and all the building has to face longer side facing north and south, so that we can optimize on the energy. And these are the kind of determinants of really preparing the master plan for this area. So we prepared a kind of preliminary master plan, talk about a small honeymoon circle kind of an area and a big garden in the middle connected to a railway network. We presented to MMRDA, and they said, okay, in principle, this is good. But we started further working on this area. And eventually the plan slightly got modified. And eventually we have a plan which is there where all the areas which are in pink in color, these are the areas earmarked for the financial institution because it is International Finance and Business Center. Orange color is supposed to be a kind of for the International Convention Center. There are a few multi-level parking garages, and the yellow color that we mark, this is for the residential activities, so that about 15% of the area is earmarked for residential, which will make the place little lively even after the working hours. We need a substantial amount of residential population in this area. On the other side of the road was some kind of a textile market, which was beyond our control. So this is the kind of master plan, which is the urban planner did, and now we think that what the urban designer can do in the master plan. So, just hold on. Yeah. So we have also simulated the traffic to decide on the width of the road network, design of the road network, etc. We also talk about the pedestrian network from the railway station to go to the various places, and the width of various pedestrian network was worked out. Some of the quick proposals for the railway stations. Then these are some of those areas where also we said that the parking is a major issue, though it's 85% traffic in public transport, but there will be some of the multi-level parking garages will be required beside the parking under the every building, which will have to provide for the parking as well as it can develop as a kind of public activity space. And as a part of this, we carried out a study for the city of Mumbai in terms of the built-up space for various organizations that they want. And finally, we said the minimum size of a piece of land should be around 3,000 square meters, and where you can build an affair of 2, because less than that kind of a plot size, it is difficult to provide for parking under the building. So that anybody want a less space, they can buy a floor from a particular builder. But if anybody want to have an independent building, it has to be minimum 3,000 square meters and above. And less than that, this place doesn't have sell plot for the small developers, because we need to provide for parking under the each building. And that's how slowly the plot size is determined, and it's taken a broad framework for the master plan. And this is the kind of a urban design framework. This is the kind of a urban design of the interpretation of the plot subdivision and kind of building that can happen. And what we basically think that some of the important streets, particularly one main street where the buildings are connected with a public square, etc., and building with arcade and podium and a certain towers. The rest of the buildings are basically simple on a plot with podium and tower, and the each faces basically longer side facing north and south, and that's the kind of overall urban form that we envisage on the master plan that was earlier prepared. And then we also created some additional public space from the owners of the plot by carving out certain land as public space in addition to what is formally provided. And this created some small spaces, and this is what we thought was very much required. This is the kind of study model for this area to show that how the build form can happen. We'll see. This is somewhere around the railway station and the pedestrian connections. This is the kind of overall three-dimensional model of the site. Buildings are about 10 to 12 floors, and we have control on certain important streets of the building when the building edges are controlled, where for the other internal areas, it's a simple plot subdivision without any compound wall between the property, and the demarcation between the properties are marked by certain plantation of trees, and there are some pedestrian connections in between. And this is what we thought can be a desirable proposal for the city of Mumbai as a financial institution. We discussed about some of them in detail. We can see the simple buildings on the north-south orientation. The entry to the building is from the back side, and there's the pedestrian connections as well. And we can see how the fire tender movement can go around the building, and we removed the compound wall and we planted some trees, because underneath the building, it is all basement parking. It is only the little space between the properties about 7.5 meters on either side, is actually where you can plant certain trees. So that also helped us the plantation of trees within the area, and the fire officer of Mumbai, who really liked our proposal in terms of building having no compound wall, and all the building can be really serviced in case of fire and other kind of natural disaster. And he made it like a rule, and so that every building now had followed this kind of principle. And on top of that urban design, we think along the road we have kind of a podium and arcade street where the other towers can set back and go behind, and an architect can do whatever he wants, but we are only trying to control the part of the street. This is a kind of arcade street with some of the towers that goes behind. Then when it was done, we also designed some of the small public spaces between the building spaces, etc. And this is a kind of one of the urban block to say that we'll have 3,000 square meter minimum plot and a kind of building profile. But along the edges, we control the building edges depending on the location, and we also facilitate vehicular movement within the block and the parking, and as well as for the fire and the movement and the landscape. This is all integrated into one. This is what we thought should be the proposal for the Bandra Kurla complex. And we can see some of the buildings that were coming up at that point in time. Now the buildings are completed. This is the Bharat Diamond Boost that was under construction, and now it is completed. And these are some of the study models for the buildings. This is now the recent pictures of some of the areas of the Bandra Kurla complex. It is still coming up and still developing. It is not yet complete. The project site is going on, but a lot of new buildings have already come up. And this definitely has become a financial center for India, and some of the major financial institutions are now operating from this area. You can attack the. Just hold on the slide.
For a second. Then,
yeah. So these are some of the pictures of this area. It's still under construction, and some of the buildings are fully developed. This is what it looked like as of now, with the National Stock Exchange, Bharat Diamond Boost, many of the offices and many of the areas are still to be developed. And this is what we thought to be kind of an urban design proposal. Finally, when we presented this to MMRDA and they agreed to our idea, then we transferred some of the people who are working in MMRDA to Ahmedabad to study under be in depth in the urban design program. We trained some of them, and now they're back to MMRDA office and they're monitoring the work. The project is going on for last more than 15 years, and it may go on for some more time. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the end of the presentation. I'll be very happy to answer various questions, etc., from your side. Thank you.
Nayana, you can.
Yes. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Utpal Sharma for providing us with valuable insights into the Bandra Kurla complex, Mumbai. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's discussion, Dr. Jeeva Vijayasundara. Dr. Jeeva Vijayasundara is an accomplished urban designer, architect, and the program leader for the MSc in Architecture at Street School of Architecture, Sri Lanka. Her expertise and skillful moderation promise to create an engaging and thought-provoking exchange of ideas among our esteemed panelists and participants. Madam, up to you.
Thank you, Nayana. Thank you so much, Professor Sharma, for your insightful presentation on the Bandra Kurla complex. And within that presentation, it's very interesting to listen to the number of precedent studies that you have explored, such as Shanghai, Hong Kong, Kennedy Wharf, Barcelona, Paris, Singapore, etc. That was really insightful to listen to your presentation, whether how much as a as a very eminent professional, how much studies that you have taken over when you are doing a master plan design in this Bandakula complex. Specifically, if we think about this development, it seems a business and residential district in the city of Mumbai. You said it's a colonial city of Mumbai. That must be a very shocking experience to the colonial heritage in the Mumbai. That must be very contrasting. And it's a prominent upscale commercial hub that commands some of the highest property rates in the country now in this area. And it must have aided to decongest the central business district, central business activities in the Mumbai. So could you please elaborate on the accessibility? So you said that it's very closer to the airport, Mumbai airport, and also closer to the commuter facilities. And how does that accessibility impact on your master plan proposal?
This site was earlier earmarked for an alternative business center for the city of Mumbai, alternative CBD. Now, in the opening up of the economy, we said, okay, it will not be an ordinary business center, it will be an international financial business center. This land is located somewhere in the overall map of Mumbai. It is somewhere centrally located. It is supported by 2 railway lines on 2 sides. Okay, Mumbai, as you know, the 45% of the trips are handled by train. Okay, the railway network is a linear city supported by railway network. This is the place where a 2 linear railway system supported from both sides at a macro level. Within our side, we need to develop better road network and connectivity that are not there. But at a macro level, accessibility site was very, very well connected. But at the same time, we also have the biggest slum of the world on the other side of the creek. Okay, it is a million people living on the other side. And I can see the poor people living in the slum on the mirror-like facade of the Mandakola complex. Because this is the kind of paradox. Okay, but then opportunities come that way. And we have to begin to work in that situation. It is like those days are over when Lee Corbusier, we invited him, we gave him a 500 square kilometer area, open land, design a new city. Now it is not possible. We have to work in the existing city fabric and we have to build within that situation, whatever best we can, and try to change the surrounding area as well. So these are the challenges.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. And in that context, how does it impact on the existing land use in the metropolitan region?
Yes, all around this area now, because of Bandakula complex, the land prices have gone high up, almost 500,000 rupees a square meter, FSI. Where the built-up area doesn't matter. Price of land is so high that you can make a building and break it down and make it new. It is cheaper to do it that way because the 95% of the cost of the project is the land. 5 to 10% is the building. When you change the FAR, I can break down the building and make a new one. That is the kind of scenario in which you are working.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Very insightful, and it's interesting to listen to your ideas and your opinions that you have used in your urban design proposal. Thank you.
What is happening?
Thank you so much. I think we should open this to the audience, President.
Yes, yes.
Do
Let
we have
me
any
start.
other questions from the audience, please?
Yeah, so let me start with one question first. Professor Sharma, I think you are talking about certain standards and norms and certain principles. For example, as far as explained that Indian government, India-wide, there's a regulation, something that you need to follow the percentages of various functional activities like residential, I think 50%. But how about the other things like now, for example, green and open space?
Percentages are only for a new entire city. When you develop only a small patches of land in the city of Mumbai, you can have your different way of providing activity. We are providing only 15% land for the residential activity. Even that is also contested because we could have located some more corporate houses. Okay. But we said we should have this at least 15%. There is some amount of life in this area, and the people live and work in the same area. In the evening hour, it doesn't become a dead place. I can provide 70% area for housing and it will be sold like hotcakes. But I am designing an international finance center. I am not designing a housing project for this area. For that, I have entire New Mumbai is available. So I have to quickly balance it. And this is the kind of discussion with the local people and also government officials that we will provide only about 15% land for residential. We could not provide for more because we need to make it into financial district. We only argued that if you make 100% area for financial district, this place will become a dead place in the evening and all the kind of murder and rape and all this kind of thing can happen. But as soon as you have some residential population and some cultural activities, this place will be live, okay, even after office hours.
Yeah. So the other note that I made is that you actually are showing that sort of detailed designs for various buildings. So is it like, how it is done? Is it totally supervised, funded, and built by the government, or is it with the public-private partnership? How much private can work freely within the? For example, in our case, so there are people coming with their expertise, their architects, and so on, right? In many development sites.
Let me tell you, the entire land belongs to the government. First thing, okay, this 120 hectares of land, which is like a piece of gold, okay, surrounded by all garbage, but that is a piece of land which is owned by the government. So it is possible to make a master plan and create urban design framework. But then we invite individual owners of the property and their own architects. It is not a one architect. We only created the urban design plot subdivision and the urban design framework. And we also made certain guidelines for every plot, saying that this is the facade, this is the section that you have to maintain, this will be the height of the building, but actual design of the building, etc., can be done by their own architect. So idea is to create a balance between the control and flexibility. You control maybe 10% of the facade, certain areas more and certain areas less, where the other 85 to 90% areas, you leave it to the individual architect to design. But they have to follow the building rules in terms of setback, margin, parking, etc. But they're free to decide. So idea is to create a balance between the control and flexibility so that you can get the image of the city. Whenever you do too much of control, it becomes like a very monotonous government type. Okay, then it doesn't have no character. And one of the finest city in India, which is not Bandakulla complex, but maybe like city like Jaipur, where it was done more than 300 years ago, where the Maharaja, he created the street with the arcade and etc., where internal areas are free for change. So they create that kind of a balance, and that's what is required. Now, it can be different for Sri Lanka, it can be different for different cities, but we must create the balance between the control and flexibility, not control. 90% freedom, 10% we may have to control to really get the image and character of the city. And that's what we try to do through the urban design guideline. And we also made it like a mandate for every plot owner. When you buy a plot, we give them a drawing that you have to follow this thing, and others are flexible for you. And there are many architects, even the famous ones, who are my teachers. They refuse to have the arcade in their own building. They say, no, arcade is a very good idea, etc. But what about hawkers? So we would like to have a building without arcade and make a fencing with a security guard. But luckily we had some of the officers from the government. They said, if you don't follow this arcade idea, we will not sell you the plot. Okay. And then many of them, they turned around. Okay. So for urban design, little bit of arm twisting may be required, because if you make it everything free for everybody, then you may not get the overall cohesive vision. So that's what we did for Bandakulla complex, and it is beginning to happen. Okay, not everything has happened exactly the way we want, but certain framework that has evolved and it is working.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Prasipha. The moderator, you can read the questions here, and
Yeah,
then you can invite others to
right.
ask questions.
Thank you. Professor Sharma, there's a question from the audience.
Yes.
Have you considered geospatial analysis as a tool to identify location?
No, here, yes, our because the overall plot subdivision, so we didn't decide which building will be what. Okay, it is the owner of the various corporate houses as to where they want to buy the piece of land within the overall framework. We didn't sell exactly this plot for the ICICI Bank. This is for the stock exchange. This is all happened in a open market situation. We only decided the urban form for the building. We also located some of the areas for the multi-level parking garages, saying that it will be located in such a way that once you park your vehicle, everything is available within 150 to 200 meter walking distance. Okay, those are things that we propose. Rest of them are flexible. Okay, and this is not within the control of the architect.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. You talked about the FSI being 2% for the project, but there are places where you said you saw FAR going up to 10%. What are the reasons for this difference?
No, FAR is 2.0. Okay. That means you have 100 square meter of land, you can build a 200 square meter of built up area.
That's right. Yes.
In Mumbai, it was earlier 130. I could build only 130 square meter in 100, but the assembly, because I had to increase it, I had to go to the assembly and to the government, and they, in their own wisdom, they said we can build up to 200. Okay, in 100 square meter, you can build 200. I proposed it to be 350. Okay, but they didn't agree. But now, after 25 years, now they made it 400. Okay, for 100 square meter, we can build 400. Okay, so our calculation was not incorrect, but it was too early for the government to do. But this changes in the built-up area now, it brings good money for the government because this is the government land. Every square feet that you sell, you bring money for the government, and they're using this funding to develop a new metro system for Mumbai. Okay, they're doing the elevated, monorail system. Okay, they're using this money to upgrade the infrastructure for the entire area. Okay, and that higher FSI helped the government.
That's right. Yes. Another question, how did the informal shopping areas for the hawkers work out in the actual implementation during the master plan proposal?
We have provided the space for informal activities between the building, as I showed you on the model. It is happening quite well. Okay, but the whole site is under construction. So some of the areas, what you shown on drawing, it is not there on ground because they're still digging up the basement or they're putting up the pipeline. But we are insisting that wherever we have proposed the informal activities, it can happen there only. And some of the best food joints of Mumbai as of now is in Mandakurla complex. Okay, so it is happening. And it's also true that I trained some of the officials of the government because they have to look after the project. They're all engineers. They have no clue about urban design. They either dig up the road and make a road and make a mess of the whole thing. Now slowly it is happening. Okay, it will take some more time, but things are moving in the right direction. I can only say that much because my job gets over when the plan is approved, and we did work for 2 more years to train some of the people, and we ran an office for them. After that, it is up to them how they implement because we are not involved beyond certain amount of time.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. How did you engage the community in this development proposal?
Indeed, there was no community in a sense that this land was totally open. We are basically talking to the various financial institutions already operating in Mumbai as to what kind of built-up space they want, what is the requirement, etc. And finally, we said we will not sell anything less than 3,000 square meters because if you less than that, it becomes very difficult for providing parking, etc. So we said we have to have by minimum 3,000 square meters with a FAR of 2. Less than that, you can buy a floor space, but you cannot have your own building. So that we insisted on the government, and government agreed to this idea because whole site otherwise would have been a mess.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. It was amazing presentation. Having worked in Mumbai for 3 years and regularly going to back for office meetings, can totally concur that the accessibility by local trains is amazing. But in case of micro accessibility, there is just autos and private transport. Is there any viable and affordable alternative for the future?
Yeah, they are trying to build a monorail system connecting to the Bandakulla complex. It is under construction. Otherwise, from the railway station, it is always about 10-minute walk. So that distance is mostly covered by auto rickshaws or your walking. Okay. And Mumbai also work very well with the taxis, but taxis are more operating in a Nariman Point area, where in this area, auto rickshaws are working. Okay. And the people in Mumbai, I don't think that they mind walking for 10 to 15 minutes, because that is the size of the city. Only 15 minutes is a walkable distance. But if in Ahmedabad, if I say 15 minutes walk, they say it is so far away. In Mumbai, it is next door. Okay. This is the attitude, and this is something to the size and class of the city. Even
Okay,
when I go from Ahmedabad to Mumbai, I behave like a Mumbai car. I walk for 15 minutes. In Ahmedabad, I will not walk for 5 minutes.
Yeah, was there any special considerations on the transportation infrastructure in terms of public transport with this development?
Yes, because in Mumbai it's already 85% traffic in public transport, 40% by train, 45% by train, and 40% by bus system. They operate within our area also. We did create a separate bus service for our area because this system is connected to the rest of the city. So we have 85% traffic in public transport system. That's how it is operating. If I go to a place like Delhi, we have some other city centers, say Rohini district center or other city centers. There everything is parking. You just cannot move because there's so much of vehicle and public transport is not there. All the urban design and public space, it is whole thing is taken over by parking. You don't see anything. You see the building and the parking, and you have to negotiate between that. So that urban design just doesn't work. We have to take care of the traffic and parking. Without that, okay, urban design doesn't exist. Most of the urban designers doesn't want to talk about traffic, and we already make the street pedestrian and beautifully design it. But we have to understand that it is necessary evil to take care of the parking and the traffic. Without that, the whole project is not going to work. We have to develop that understanding.
Okay, thank you. Another question, how about the neighboring landowners?
Yeah, they're developing their land also into the financial center. Many of the buildings around our site, which are some slum areas and other things, they also develop, and some of those small corporate buildings are happening, and which as an urban designer, I cannot stop it. But it's a democratic process, and they have the right to do whatever they want.
Thank you. There's another question, quick question entailed with the previous discussion. A bus circulator would do the trick.
Bus
Circulator would do the trick regarding the private bus transportation.
eventually we may do something on our side, but the site is not yet fully developed. So we are running a bus service connecting to various places. We don't have a public transport within our site to make a loop. And the network is all there, but many of the pieces of land is still empty. Okay. Eventually, we may do a public transport within our site, maybe in terms of battery operated cars or some kind of monorail, etc., etc. These are being talked about. Okay. But we want some more things to develop on site, and say about 80% of the area get developed. Maybe we can do the rest of the stuff. Now the site is still under construction. Part of the site are empty.
Next question, is there any geographical reason being the FAR where to maximum 2.08?
Now in Mumbai, it is 1.33 for some various historical reasons. You don't know why. Okay, but it was for entire city of Mumbai. We propose that in all the business centers, including Nariman Point, including Bandra Kurla, including Navi Mumbai, these centers should have higher FAR because these become the places for employment. Okay. And that is, so it is the better connectivity, etc., etc. So we had proposed higher, but the government on its own, they said we cannot do so much. You can do only up to 2. I was proposing 3.5, they gave us 2. Now they made it 4. Okay. Now the road network doesn't work for FSI 4 because I didn't design it. Okay. So it will undergo some major transformation in the coming years.
Okay. Another question. What are the operating hours of the business center and how did you handle the dead hours?
Now here what happens that in Mumbai we studied. So theoretically we have every 12 to 15 square meter is one employment. But in Mumbai 86 square meter one employment. There are too many people. Okay. And we cannot afford that kind of space. So compared to city like New York, may have a more built-up area, less employment. India, less employment, more built-up area. Okay, the other way around. But 6 square meter is creating a lot of employment, and every employment also asks for one visitor per day. Or commercial has more and office has little less space. So we also have to take care of the visitors to this area beside that employment. Because all these numbers were worked out, and we have to provide for public space for them.
Okay, there's another question. How do you use informal activities to strengthen the Mumbai people? And what kind of urban design strategies are adopted to exposure towards the international financial system?
What you are saying is that these informal activities as a part of the arcade is very much desirable, is already working in Mumbai. Okay, it is impossible to stop it. And the other things that are happening between the blocks, certain areas which are not on the main road, so that it can operate independently. These are beginning to happen. Some of the best informal activities, you want to buy some clothes, you want to have some Chinese food, you will find in the Bandakurla complex. It is beginning to happen. Okay. Like Hong Kong, they have done the informal activities and they kept it away from the traffic. They created between the buildings. They have it is done so beautifully. Okay. So we try to find our solution to the problem in the Indian way. Okay. Till now it is working. If everything comes to the street and all the footpaths are occupied by hawkers, then we have no place to move. Okay. That's the kind of situation that we are trying to avoid. Till now it is working, but I don't know 10 years from now, maybe something else will happen. And I have to find some other solution.
Okay, thank you. I have another small question, a clarification. Since this is an empty land before this development, when this development proposal is done, how about the arrangements for the other infrastructure facilities such as water supply, drainage, electricity, etc.?
This land is owned by the Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority, and they were entrusted with the job of creating the International Finance Center. So based on the master plan that we prepared, we built a road network, water supply, and sewerage system. Earlier there was nothing. That's why they sold off some plot along the road, and rest of the area that left it. We said, we're doing a very high priced land. Every square feet counts. Okay. To prepare the master plan, and we said, let's build the infrastructure. Within the plot, things can happen over a period of time because that is a private initiative. But we must provide the infrastructure. So infrastructure has been provided now. Okay. And it is not too much of money because I could sell only a few 100 square meter of land. It provided for the entire cost of infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all these questions, Dulini, Vedika, Deepali, Aditya.
Here, I think I see our former senior academic planner, KD Fernando, is in the audience.
Fernando is my friend. Yeah.
You know him, right? So
we were in Vietnam.
Yes. KD Fernando, do you have any?
Trying to get the APSA Congress to Sri Lanka. I fought with him. Yeah.
Anything? Any comments? Questions? Mr. Fernando? Okay. Dr. Senaka is there. Dr. Senaka, you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, first let me congratulate Professor Sharma on a wonderful presentation. It was very inspiring, and he, I think for the students also, it might be very useful because we saw a lot of precedents. Professor Sharma, let me ask you one question. I think your entire development seems to be also concentrating on providing avenues for the pedestrians. I think you are looking at a pedestrian-friendly, pedestrian-centric approach. And since you showed precedents from Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, I think one of the primary elements in their pedestrian realm or the public realm are the EPLs, what are the elevated pedestrian links, and the UPLs, underground pedestrian links. And of course, in the context of Singapore and Hong Kong, definitely these sheltered EPLs and underground the UPLs, underground pedestrian links, provide the shelter and the easy conveyance for pedestrians between buildings, and especially in what we call the between uh, office complexes. And I saw you very much in advocacy for the arcades, just like the colonial arcades, which is a beautiful thing. I didn't see much EPLs or UPLs which were proposed there. Is there a reason, or because I find that the shaded walkways?
Agree. It is still not there. Okay. It is still within the block. We have a arcade and pedestrian spaces, footpath, but connecting block because the roads are under construction right now. I want them to complete the basic infrastructure. Then I can dig up or do certain underground or overground connection. So those will happen maybe much later because I'm trying to set up the basic infrastructure. I cannot do too much of fine work because if I do something and tomorrow they will come and dig up this whole area. So this whole project as of now is under construction. Okay. 50% occupied, but infrastructure is being provided. So they think it is not yet 100% stable. Okay. Some of the finer aspect will bring it maybe a little later. Not yet now.
Professor Utpal.
Yes.
Professor Sharma, nice to see you after a long time.
Okay, I will come and see you in December sometime.
We are not strangers. Professor, actually speaking, this talk, this presentation was so interesting, not alone interesting, but I think it has opened a vista for us to absorb all these theme points. But that in Sri Lanka, I was for the last number of decades trying to I achieved certain things. The suboptimal use of land. Now, Havelock City, that means it was, I'm not boasting myself, it's my brainchild. The city within a city was the dream I had. Actually, it happened after 21 years, not the fault of the investors. So whatever it is, that is the history. Now, Professor, as you are more intelligent than me and you are highly educated than me, so pardon me for asking it. This suboptimal use of land had kept as a dilemma in our urban development. That means, is it due to my way of looking at it, some haphazard development? Now, I must say in 1975 to 77, we had a Colombo master plan project, you know very well. So therefore, it has already prepared and the implementation lost somewhere. But I picked one of the project north of Colombo that is called the first and the last integrated urban development. That was the act mentioned in the Urban Development Authority Act 1978. So, Professor, now something is uh, uh, something is missing in our part due to some reason. I think the decision making has some loophole in this case. That is one point. Second point is pardon me, say, mention in this, what do you call, the various headings I have given. Suboptimal, sorry, the sub metropolitan region development, sub metropolitanization. Now, those days we say urban, what do you call, the suburban areas and all these things. But when you collect all together, I have found that the surrounding area of the city of Colombo is converting their land, the conversion of this land due to the demand, like Gampaha, then Homagama Kaduela, and all these places. You can see that there's a rapid development as far as the urban areas are concerned. Now, that is for residential purposes, purposely. On the other side, you find industrial development also here and there. But there are certain areas are already planned adjacent to Sri Jawadanapura, our new parliament city. Therefore, Professor, what you have seen this thing, I think, I think you have seen in Sri Lanka when you visited here, here and there, some changes have taken place. For instance, you take Golf Face Green side, like next to the old parliament. I have
Let me tell you, the Sri Lanka needs a different approach. Because India, we have some of the mega cities of 20 million plus. Okay.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 million.
Yeah.
We need to have much more of a regional approach. Some kind of a overall Sri Lanka in terms of settlement hierarchy, where you want to make it bigger, smaller, how it to grow. We cannot only talk about Colombo. Colombo is not Sri Lanka. Okay. We need to develop the other areas and develop connectivity and the hierarchy of settlement and the activities. Okay. Yeah. Even in India now, we are realizing that we made a mess because every state has a one big city and nothing is around. We have to really talk about settlement policy at overall India and every state. I need to work at that kind of a regional level.
Professor, now we have this highway development. As a result of that, if you take the, what you call, higher the accessibility, greater the potential for development, right? Now, therefore, we are connecting this some of the towns in the country, and what I can see, more than the what you call commercial linkages, they are having this what you call passenger transport. So what my fear is, how we are going to develop those centers, because we have a shortage of land, because we can't take all the agricultural land. Paddy fields are there, all these things are provisions
this is the misnomer. In India, the urban development takes only 2% of the land, and all the huge gang of people saying that you are eating even the land, what we going to eat tomorrow. If you are talking about 70% of the economy, can't you give them 2% land? Okay, yeah, I'm in Sri Lanka, I can give 5% land for 50% of the economy. This is not much. I think there's the whole lobby that is operating there. Nothing will be, will be rural and nothing is going to happen. More urban you are, more progressive you will be. Income will be more. But we have to do it in a way that you don't destroy the ecology and
that's right. I agree with you.
We have to work on that. More urban will bring more economy. More agriculture you have, you'll be backward country. Okay, yeah. It may look beautiful, but that is the way to move forward. We have to decide on the strategy.
Yeah, but my point is this. Now it has come to a situation where we have to set apart space for what you call the animal habitat. At the same time, the reservations. At the same time, we have to see other requirements. On the other side, we are what you call the rice producing country. Historically, we are called at hydraulic civilization and granary of the East. Now, those are the past.
You will have to look at a regional framework and identify land that can be made urban, and rest of the area you protect.
Yeah, probably I want to get to your point. I thought that the agro-urbanization could make the situation ease out to a certain extent. That means, Professor, now you can see we can't provide employment in the agriculture sector alone, because then you are fabricating the what you call the subdividing the land, and the what you call the productivity of the land might uh, go down. That is my way of looking at it. But I am not an agricultural scientist. But whatever it is, I can see we have to respond to this demand going to take place, not going to take place, already taken place. Those people are flocking into other cities. But I think that we have, if you want to retain those people within that area, what do you call the environmentally, I think it is more compatible, and therefore agro-urbanization will be an answer. When I say agro-urbanization, the non the agriculture population additional employment demand would be found there. Now, therefore, now we are having this what you call agricultural export, what you call ventures also. Now, what you call dehydrated products are going out of the country, and we are earning some what you call the foreign exchange. So, therefore, I think we have to boost up this in order to tackle the
Absolutely.
future population issues.
I think the plan for the city of Hyderabad, where you propose a large area for urban agriculture. Okay, now it is called the tree city of India, and a lot of greenery and everything that has come up. It can be built into the city plan. Exactly, I agree with what you were saying. But I think let's also allow the other people to talk. You and I can
Okay,
discuss
yes,
for one day.
right. I think Planner KD, Fernando, thank you very much for sort of coming forward and commenting. So let's see, are there, you are switch off your mic. Please switch on the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Fernando. There's another question on Bandra Kurla. Are there any networking events? Are there any networking events or community building initiatives organized by the business center for the resident people and nearby slum people?
Yes, many of these people, many of the big corporate offices, they're working in the slums, and they're also working in the developing the creek, which also floods the site. So they're talking about managing the mangrove and the other area, and they're working in the slum settlement in terms of developing transit housing, certain provision of facilities. It is working. It is happening, but it needs to be much more than what it actually.
Okay, thank you,
But not
Professor.
even Dharavi. It became going to be another corporate project. Okay, that Adani Group had taken over Dharavi, and it will be another Shanghai tomorrow. So it will be very different. That from a slum, it will become a Shanghai. Okay, I still difficult to imagine that, but that's what is the kind of plan that we are talking about.
Thank you, Professor. There are a few comments thanking about your interesting presentation and thanking to the SLAUD on arranging this forum. Is there any question from the audience?
I think we can conclude the session.
Yeah, okay. If there's no any question further, we can conclude the session. Naina?
Yes. Once again, our heartfelt appreciation goes to Professor Utpal Sharma and Dr. Jiva Vijayasundara and all other affiliated professionals for their invaluable contributions. Throughout this session, we strive to reignite our passion for urban design and delve into innovative solutions to the challenges of urban living. Your active participation and valuable insights are undoubtedly served as a driving force behind the resounding success of the Urban Talks. We now invite the Honorary Secretary of the Sri Lanka Institute of Urban Designers, the Urban Designer Architect Pradeep Fernando, to award the vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you, Naina. Our key speaker, Professor Utpal Sharma, distinguished guests, invitees, members, and all participants. I take this opportunity once again to thank all of you for your presence. And after a long time, we have resumed this program of Urban Talks. Hence, it's been another successful event in our progress. Now we are Sri Lanka Institute of Urban Designers. We have got the incorporation, and on behalf of the President and the Council of the Institute of Urban Designers, Sri Lanka Institute of Urban Designers, I thank you all for your wonderful participation, and especially Professor Utpal Sharma. It had been a very, very informative presentation. There are students, graduate members, urban designers, and many others from various disciplines spoke about an integrated approach with reference to the complex in Mumbai, which you highlighted the approach in integrating the macro and micro level integration and addressing all parameters, and integrating the community and the urban economical aspects, and you had a broader spectrum in this whole thing, and which was very educative. And so thank you very much for your valuable time, sharing your valuable time. And then I would like to thank the council and all the organizers, our moderator, Dr. Jiva Vijayasundara, architect, urban designer, and who is also a council member, and our compeer, architect Nayana Jayasundara, and all the others who enabled us to make this event a glorious success. And we look forward to have more presentations and more web conferences of this nature to have a widest participation. And so thank you very much and have a great evening. A good night.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor Upal.
Thank you.
See you once again later. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.